the draft was just awesome for Carolina football, and in particular that position, the tackle position. And so then the question came, all right, well, what is this thing going to look like next year? And I know you get plenty of intel. I've been fortunate to get some good intel. You'll never say that there's no drop-off or something like that. We have to see it, and you want to make sure you give credit to the guys that put in all that time that are gone. But, dude, it's difficult for me to not like this group, starting with Nick Barrett. I love Nick Barrett and Preston. In today's day and age, he could have easily walked out the door and gone somewhere else for playing time. He's been here 5 years. He's waited his turn. He's lived and he's learned in that uniform. And then they took him to media days, which told me all I needed to know about him. I think he's going to be a huge, maybe a very underrated piece at this point in time to this football team.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense when you frame it like that, because you're going to need a person who's there for the veteran leadership, as those other guys were last year. Think of how long Boogie was here, how long TJ was here, how long Tonka was here. Those guys, we've had them for a long time. So having somebody that is used to doing things the right way, used to doing things the way that the old guys did it, and can carry forth that standard is, you can't replace that. And it's not necessarily a number or an analytic that you can have, but just the feeling of somebody being a leader in the room is probably irreplaceable.
All right, I'm not gonna ask you specific questions about specific players, because I don't know that it's fair to you, and I don't know that it's fair to these players. We can do that once the season kind of gets here and we've watched them with enough reps. We know they're talented. Monkel Goodwine was recruited by Nick Saban. He didn't recruit bad defensive tackles. And Gabriel Brownlow-Dindy was a consensus 5-star. Darren Usher described him to me the other day as pound for pound maybe the best athlete on this entire team. And when he gets going, watch out. But I want to talk to you about the position specifically, because there's a guy on the outside who everybody's going to focus on, number 6, Dylan Stewart. So what is important when you've got elite talent on the edge like that? What is important for these guys to be able to produce at a high level, to be able to maximize who they are and make the biggest and best impact that they can?
So let's start with the run game. They're going to have to be able to stabilize and neutralize any blocks that are coming at them, because Dylan is still learning how to play the run. That's not his first specialty. He's getting there, and I wholeheartedly believe he will be better. But you have to be able to control the run game with your inside tackles, and that's something that Tonka, Boogie, DeAndre. And notice how we keep going over these names. They all did it so well last year that it allowed Dylan and Kyle to really hunker down and play pass first. And I think that's what these guys are going to have to do. So starting with that, and it's the same conversation for the passing game. Nobody could block TJ one-on-one last year. If you did, good luck. He was going to get a sack. So if teams elected to double team TJ, or they elected to double team Tonka, that left one of the ends free. And so they had this cohesive group of dudes who, Jamie, it was so much fun. I just have to say, it was so much fun watching our DL play last year. It was some of the most fun I've had being a fan, because that group just got after it so much. And I don't doubt that this year's group will do, because I want to make sure I say this. It starts from the top with the coach.
Yeah.
Right? With Travian being there, being that old school Brad Loyne lineage, bringing that sort of toughness to the group. I don't question whether or not this group is going to be tough, whether they're going to play hard with effort, all of that. They're just going to have to produce and let their talent shine. But I think as fans, we can all feel pretty confident that they will be coached up to the maximum level of their abilities.
I'm so glad you brought him into the equation. Travian. Travian is one of the kindest humans out there. But good God, when he, much like you and Langston, and there's been a lot of elite players on that side of the football up front over the years, but when he strapped it on, he was mean. And Travian would probably be the first one to tell you he wasn't probably the most athletic guy at that position or anything like that. But what he didn't have there, he made up here. And you mentioned Brad Lawing. If he's got 1% of Brad Lawing in him, he's better than most who coach that position in college football, right?
Yeah, rest in peace to the Law Dog for sure. But like what happens? Obviously, you've seen this. You tend to, as a player, you just remember the things your coach told you that you've heard over and over and over again, and the things that were unacceptable in Brad Lauren's room, I'm pretty sure are unacceptable in Travian Robertson's room. And so, a lot of those standards and things that carried over from the top, who Brad is recognized universally as one of the greatest D-line coaches in college football history ever. And so to have somebody who's sort of a descendant of that teaching a new generation, is and you add on top of that that he's an alum and he cares and all of that type of stuff, man. I think it's one of the biggest wins that Shane made as far as the coaching staff is concerned. And these players, I think we'll see the benefits of that.
Has anything changed in coaching or developing this position over the years that you're aware of?
Yeah, there's always techniques change. Sometimes, how I like to pick your brain sometimes about the new things that have happened in baseball since I was really in the thick of it. It's sort of similar to those things. There might be a couple of technique changes, or maybe, instead of playing it with the off arm, we might play it with the play on, like little technique things. But majorly, no, it's still going to be who gets their feet in the ground the fastest, who explodes through their hips, who plays with their hands. It's the majority of the things will be pretty much the same.
That's why I asked that question, because I feel like while this could change and that could change from a technical standpoint, at the end of the day, you're kind of either a dog or you're not. Like that's who these guys want out there first and foremost, starting with Shane Beamer, and then going on from there. This program inside and out, clearly. And every single year when people are bitching and moaning and worrying about recruiting and this, that, and the other, I really I'm just not one of those guys. I obviously pay attention to it. I'm focused on who are they recruiting that is going to put their hand on the ground? Like, who are the guys in the trenches? Because, Preston, you go back to, we were talking to Strickland about this other day. You go back to, like, y'all's era, and then you go fast forward to the best era ever under Coach Spurrier, and then pretty much every other team that's ever been here in my lifetime, Carolina football, when they're good up front, they're good. When they're not good. Period. The end. And it just feels like they're recreating something that we began to see 15 years ago, kind of a plug-and-play model on the line of scrimmage where, hey, if anything goes awry, these guys up front are still going to be able to set the tone, and that will compensate for whatever happens back behind them.
Yes, and what you're saying is exactly true, because you have these group of guys who we know that Monkel is highly recruited. We know Gabriel is highly recruited. So we know that they have the athleticism and the skill base to bring it. And now you have coach that's coaching them up. But there's the second part. They call it, those skill will scale. How skilled are you versus how willed are you? How much do you want to do this? And a lot of things about playing inside, the dog in you, the D-line inside of that, is how much do you really want to sit here and take on a double team? Do you really want to occupy this block instead of trying to swim over the block and now you get blown out of the play? There's a lot of things that you have to make up your mind to do that. Many of them are not sexy. Again, I keep relating to you, Jamie, as a catcher. We can do this thing the pretty way, but sometimes you just got to want to do it. And that's a large part of playing the interior D-line. And I really think, just to harp on it, I think they have the coaching and the leadership and the attitude in the room that you don't get to do any of the fancy stuff unless you play the run and do the basics well. So that's why I guess I'm pretty encouraged about, regardless of who they put in there. We know they're good enough, but I know they're going to be coached up.